We're in the thick of the 2024 election campaign, and an unlikely race is making headlines. A battle for a spot on the 9-member Georgia Supreme Court. Former Democratic Congressman John Barrow is vying to unseat sitting conservative-leaning Justice Andrew Pinson. 3 other justices seeking new 6-year terms are running unopposed. The contest becoming one of the most competitive and expensive Supreme Court races Georgia has ever seen, with Republican Governor Brian Kemp committing to spend more than $500,000 to help Justice Pinson win the election and keep his seat. The race taking a controversial turn this month when Pinson's opponent was hit with misconduct charges for centering his campaign for the seat on a pledge to support abortion rights. Georgia's judicial code of conduct prohibits candidates from making remarks about highly sensitive cases likely to come before the state's top court. Barrow has filed a federal lawsuit in response. And joining me now is Georgia Supreme Court Justice Andrew Pinson. So Georgia Governor Brian Kemp appointed you in 2022, and he's rolled out a television ad this week endorsing you as a conservative that voters can trust. He also took a dig at your opponent, saying Georgia doesn't need more partisan politicians. What's your reaction to that?
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate the chance to come on. My reaction, first of all, is that I'm proud to have the support of Governor Kemp, who appointed me to the Court of Appeals and then to the Supreme Court. Unlike my opponent, I have taken seriously that these races in Georgia are nonpartisan, and I have a broad bipartisan set of supporters across the state. And so while I'm proud to have the governor's support, I'm proud to have the support of folks from both parties who understand that what it means to be a judge in Georgia is to do the job with excellence and to be fair and impartial in every case that we come across.
But Justice Pinson, how do you respond to what you have from your opponent? Barrow is claiming that his right to free speech is being violated. He argues that his views are legal. They are not partisan or political, his views on abortion. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm not going to get into the middle of my opponent's federal lawsuit, but what I can tell you is this. The people of Georgia put in place this commission through our Constitution to protect the public's confidence in our judges and courts. That's so important. We don't prejudge cases, that we keep an open mind and rule on cases fairly and impartially. These are rules that we take seriously because they're critical to upholding and preserving the rule of law and people's confidence in our judiciary. We're seeing across the country people's faith in our judiciary shaken for exactly the things that my opponent is trying to do in this race, which is to inject partisan politics and to prejudge issues that could come before us. I take our oath seriously. I take our code of conduct seriously. It's clear that he's not, and those are the consequences that he's dealing with as a result.
But help us understand this, because when judicial nominees to the U.S. Supreme Court come before the Senate, there is already a paper trail of research on their opinions on hot button issues like abortion, gun control, et cetera. So why shouldn't people in Georgia be allowed to know what public position the candidates are so that they have a better idea of who they're voting for?
First of all, I do have a record of my positions on any number of issues on the bench. I have over 80 published opinions as a judge. But really, I guess I take issue with the premise of the question, which presumes that judges, when they have cases come before them, have already prejudged them, have already some decision in mind that they're reaching without considering the arguments of the parties, without considering the facts before them. But we take an oath as a judge to put aside personal preferences, politics, anything else, and to keep an open mind with respect to every case that comes before us. Again, I take that oath seriously, and I question whether anyone should want it a different way. If you think about a litigant coming before a court in Georgia or anywhere else, and that litigant has just heard that one of the justices on the court is going to rule the other way in their case because they spoke about it at some public event, how does that person feel about whether they can get justice, whether they can get a fair shake in the courts of our state? I would submit to you that they can't. And that's why these rules and why our oath as judges is so important. We truly do have to keep an open mind and have to address each issue and case as it comes to us, and not before, and certainly not prejudging issues before the parties have had their day in court.
Justice Andrew Pinson, thank you so much for joining us.